more and more we're getting confirmation that crypto is going to dominate outright. I just don't see how it's not going to do that right now. We have articles like this coming out, and they're saying MasterCard predicts central banks will lean away from issuing retail-focused CBDCs. That's not a revelation. What they're doing, they're confirming what the bank said 2 months ago. Remember that? 2 months ago, we read a document where the banks were saying that they were going to focus on issuing and developing wholesale CBDCs and concentrate on that, as opposed to retail. And I can't remember which one it was. I think it was, we heard a little bit from the representative from the Bank of England, and then maybe it was either the ECB or the BIS. It was one of them. But this just confirms that. Now, number one, they were not able to catch up with us in technology. That's number one. Number two, stable coins. Stable coins have always made them salivate. They were drooling at the mouth about stable coins because, let's just be real, the central banks and different governments, entities like that are lazy. They don't want to do the work themselves. So here's the problem. They want so badly to rely on stable coins, not understanding that the dislike of them, not stable coins, but the central banks and governments, the dislike that the people have for them is going to turn the people against anything that they offer. Like, do you see that? Right? They don't see it. They're like blind. They're the emperor with invisible clothing on. That's exactly what they are. The people are going to use regular crypto. I'm almost certain of it, more than stable coins, more than any CBDC, even if they do issue it. Because the people have spoken and let it be known. They don't like it. It wasn't CBDCs that were the problem. What were people saying was the problem? Who was going to use the instrument? Who was going to use the stable coins? They didn't want to hand their information to central banks and hand all that power to central banks. They didn't want to hand all that power to governments. It was the people like 3 years ago. All over the place, people were saying, we don't want digital currencies. What they really were saying is, we don't want digital currencies from you. They don't trust them. So now, let's put retail CBDCs to the side. Now the same entities that people don't trust are saying, hey, everybody, you should use this stable coin. The people are still going to look at it like, we don't want anything that you're offering. You don't get it yet. We don't want what you're pushing. Right? Right. And they don't get that yet. But what can happen, which is might be interesting if, like, I don't work for bank coin companies. I don't know what they're going to do, but they could take advantage of that if they want to. One thing that they could do is say, hey, listen, we're fintech companies. We're a private sector. Listen, we're neutral. We don't need or want your data. As a matter of fact, some of them, like Brave Browser and Bravecoin, to let you sell your own data and make money off it. They can flip it that way also. They're going to say, we don't need or want your data, but we have a system that's cheap. We got an alternative banking system. That's pretty much what it is. You can get your paycheck on it. You can send money around the world. You can send money to your loved ones. And what they'll do is, right, so that your money is not in crypto, like you're not holding crypto. Listen, they could do this. The company's already doing this. This is what I'm saying. Crypto outright can dominate. Listen to this idea. What they can do is they allow you to hold your US dollars, just like Coinbase does, Uphold does. You hold your US dollars in this digital, this XRP, this Ripple wallet, XRPL wallet. I like to do that. So I'm going to say something and then you blink a couple times. It means you're serious. You're thinking. You hold your US dollars in that digital wallet, and when you're ready to send it, Ripple converts it into XRP instantly. It's not even, the value is not even at XRP for a second, more than a few seconds, maybe. Sent across the world or sent to your daughter, Daisy, your son somewhere, your mom, father, whatever. Instant transfer, right? Sort of like what they do with account to account transfers now. But you do that through a digital system that you control. You know how many people would go for that? Was like, well, was the government involved? No. Central banks involved? No. It's just here. So we're just a company. We're just going to give it here. Here's the product. You just use the product. Are you going to collect our info? No, we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. If they float it that way, the people will go for it. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's the only way that I look at retail and say, retail could bring some significant capital. When it comes to bank coins, that is. Because let me tell you something. Other than that, retail is not moving bank coins. I just don't see it. It's been big companies buying by proxy that's been pumping everything up. They've been reporting on this all over the place. Big money entities been buying all these things by proxy and then selling them, of course, making them crash. But the banks are what's going to pump that price up. You want $15 prices, $20, $30 prices. That's what'll get it there. So they definitely could do that. Then even if they do use stable coins instead of retail CBDCs, which is, you have the Fed pushing stable coins. All of a sudden they love stable coins again. All of these other entities pushing stable coins. It doesn't, even if they use stable coins, we still win. David Schwartz said everything that touches the XRPL is going to have an impact on XRP. Everything. Right. Even so, and now people are starting to understand why Ripple came out with RLUSD. Right. That was a very strategic move. Very strategic. They knew what was coming. So either way, the XRPL is going to win. Then that's not taking into account everything SBI has been going absolutely bonkers with what they're trying to do. They're trying to do stuff everywhere. They're trying to build this new product. They're making ways for their clients to make more money with XRP. Then I read one article where some other company was requesting SBI take certain actions. I'm not sure if that's legit, though. But SBI has been on the move for sure because they know all these companies are making these moves. They know what's coming. It's time to strike while the iron is hot. It's not a game. They're trying to make some money here. Big. There's a huge opportunity coming, and they want to make sure they're at the forefront of it. They're at the forefront of it, and they keep their clients happy. Their clients benefit from it. Then that brings them even more value in business. But so this is just confirmation. But look how everything flips so quickly. So quickly. But I also believe, now here's another aspect of this, because if it says here, payments giant MasterCard is forecasting that central banks will shift away from retail CBDCs and focus more on offering digital assets to banks and financial institutions. Listen, folks, if you've been following the channel for a long time, you've seen the battle that's been happening between the central banks and the commercial banks. We even read a document, this was back in maybe October or November, where in that document, it was a PDF, they were saying they were going to take certain actions that would be like stepping on the toes of the commercial banks. It literally said that they were going to do exactly what the commercial banks asked them to not do. Because certain actions that the central banks were considering taking could definitely take customers away from the commercial banks. It's like at that point, why would the customers need the commercial bank if they could go directly to you? And that's exactly what the commercial banks said. Why is that important? Because now if you're the commercial banks, why would you work with the same entities that were going to cut you off at the knees? The same entities that were thinking about taking business from you. You can't trust them now. Why is that important? Because now those same commercial banks, they can go work with Ripple. They can go work with Algorand, Stellar, Quant, Chainlink, Solana. They can go work with them. And on top of that, who knows the technology better? A company that specializes in the technology like Ripple, specializes in customization like Ripple, or some central bank that's dibble dabbling. They can't even barely get their own wholesale CBDC off the ground. Heck, they couldn't even do anything without crawling on their knees and taking all the information from Chainlink, Ripple, Stellar, all these other companies they were rubbing shoulders with all these years just to put together some Frankenstein project. Who are you going to trust more? I think they're going to trust Ripple a little bit more. It's a more focused company. It's a specialized company. This is what they do, literally. They're the best of the best. And they already got a bunch of banks on board. So what they're doing is only going to drive more banks into the arms of bank coin companies. I'm telling you, that's a lot of money. The whole game is changing right before everybody's eyes as they just see what's here. So creating digital assets for institutions, listen. And this is another reason. See how they said that? Remember, it was about a year ago. Was it a year ago? Was it in 2024 or 2023? No, it was 2023 when Stuart Alderati was saying how they were talking to a bunch of banks, right? And that he believed the banks would use XRP. I believe he was the one that said that. Go look it up. Then, I believe it was Monica Long at the time, came out a while after that, a few months after that, and iterated the same. You see all these connections here? It's because, see, we're getting the information late. They got the information early. This type of information, they get it first, and so they acted upon it, knowing that these large financial institutions and banks are going to be looking for an alternative now. That makes sense? I mean, listen, I don't work for these companies. I don't know 100%, but I'm just going based on the research that I've done. It all adds up. And sure, someone can have other thoughts, and that's a good thing. These are mine. They acted on that. And I think they struck while the iron was hot. Those companies don't trust the central banks. Why would they take the risk of working with the central banks, knowing the central banks could at any time take customers from them and have literally issued documents with verbiage that sounds like that's exactly what they might do, even though out of their mouths they're saying, no, we're not going to do that. Why would I even take the chance? Let me go work with Ripple if I'm a bank, large financial institution. Let me go work with Ripple. Let me go work with Solana. I don't have to worry about them taking customers from me. They want to work with us. They had literally been saying that from the beginning. We'll work with the banks. What does that do to that price when it happens? You get a couple thousand banks on the XRPL. What happens? You get a couple thousand banks using XRP. What happens? You know, they've been coming out with article after article saying how that Japan, a lot of banks in Japan want to use XRP. Then we've heard for years that Ripple has been shaking hands with banks around the U.S. They just couldn't come out with the stuff at the time because they didn't have regulatory clarity, but it's coming real soon. What happens? You get a couple thousand banks using XRP or the XRPL. Everything on the XRPL impacts the price of XRP is what David Schwartz said, right? What does it do to that price if that happens? Then listen to this, how they literally tell on themselves, right? It says here, quote, just a few years ago, many of the world's central banks were looking at the feasibility of issuing their own currencies in digital form. Today, more and more central banks have concluded that the private sector, we're about to go right past the moon. My humble opinion, not financial advice. They can't stop us. They couldn't stop us. They lost. It's almost money time. I'm excited. Don't mean you have to be, but I'm excited. It says, more and more central banks have concluded that the private sector is innovating well. Guess what that means? Thank you. You're waving the white flag. You just told us we won. We're going to continue to win. It says it's innovating well on its own. You couldn't steal everything from us. You never got the golden key, even though a lot of people believe that you did. And I told them that you did it. Told them you didn't get it. I told them you couldn't surpass us. I told them you couldn't beat us. And you didn't beat us. I was right. Let's keep going. Victory is almost at hand. I feel great. It says, innovating well on its own, and that central bank digital currencies aimed at the general public needn't be a high priority. You couldn't get them off the ground and push them if you wanted to. The people don't want it. But the people have had a great time making money with crypto, and that's got them more familiar with crypto. You and all of the different powers of the world pressuring the people and making conditions very difficult for them, especially financially. And then crypto helping alleviate some of that, because a lot of people made a lot of money in crypto, has brought a good energy in their minds and in their hearts towards crypto. They're going to be using crypto a lot more in the future. And I'm not talking about stable coins, because then we got to get to those businesses. I don't know if I said this already. Hopefully I'm not repeating myself. I have so many thoughts. I don't know what I've already said. But the businesses that want digital currencies, I don't see why they would go through a stable coin when they could just use US dollars that are then converted instantly. You have the US dollars in a digital account. And then you instantly, you want to send that to somebody. It's instantly converted into XRP. It just takes a second or a few seconds to go through to the other side. Sorry about that. Pardon me. Go through on the other side. On the other side, it's converted back into USD or renminbi or yuan or any other currency. And it happens like that. Boom, 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 boom. Why wouldn't they just do that? Because a lot of them are going to be heavily invested into these cryptos anyway. But once again, they don't have to hold crypto. It's the same thing Quant is doing already with the Quant Q&T system. They led the way. They showed the method. Companies put they can put their USD, sure, they can use Q&T also. They put their USD in. Quant, the company, converts it into Q&T, puts it through the system, and it's converted into the other currency on the other side. If they're using it for payments as such. They can use it just for gas fees as well, but Ripple can do the same thing. Ripple, the company, or SBI, or Uphold, can be the ones who converts your USD into whatever crypto, and it acts as the rails. Your value rides the rails to wherever it's going instantaneously, and hence instant payments. And then it's converted on the other side. And that company never had to touch crypto. They never had to touch it. But here's the thing. Because it rode the rails, it touched XRP, even if it is for a second or less or a few seconds. Imagine having millions, hundreds of millions, maybe even billions of transactions. Large amounts. Even if it's hitting XRP for a second. And that's consistent. There's a consistency. There's a continuity now. That's going to affect that price. So now, let's see if they tell a little bit more on themselves. It says, in fact, another element of the U.S.'s actions currently, it says on digital assets, bans the development and issuance of CBDCs. Yes, but there's plenty of banks around the world. So once again, we see that clearly what you're saying is that because the U.S. is doing something and not doing something rather, that the rest of the world is going to do that same thing. Interesting. I don't think that's wise. You should make your decisions based on your own estimations, not just because someone else did it, in my humble opinion. All right, so we're going to stop there with that one. I want to get here to this little bit of Bitcoin news. Now, this article is titled, Bitcoin to pump as world is on brink of max chaos, unquote. This is coming from a Bitwise executive. That's a little bit exaggerative. The world is on the brink of max chaos. We've lived through a lot of things in recent decades. And one thing that we've seen is that things seem to always balance themselves out. It started out a little bit chaotic. They start out with a lot of rejection, and then they always seem to balance themselves out. But let's see what he's talking about here. It says Bitwise CEO Hunter Horsley, which I think we heard from recently because his name reminds me of Hunter Hearst Helmsley, the wrestler, Triple H. It says, and head of Alpha Jeff Park say macroeconomic signals are flashing that Bitcoin is ready for a price pump. Really? I think there's a lot of catalysts that point towards Bitcoin is ready for a pump. But I think that what they're going to say is similar to what people used to say about gold. Oh, the world is going to be on fire. Buy some gold to protect your value. Don't get me wrong. Gold is a great protective commodity. But you don't need fear mongering to get people into Bitcoin or gold. You don't. There's big catalysts. And if the people choose, people forget there's choice. They want to control people's minds so much. I see this all the time. It's ridiculous. And try to control people a lot with fear. They try to redirect you with fear. So be careful of that. But Bitcoin has plenty of positive catalysts that can make that price explode in the future. And if people choose to get involved, that's up to them. If they choose not to, that's up to them to not get involved in Bitcoin. It's a choice. No need to force people into something. But anyway, it says here, Bitcoin is a generational, quote unquote, generational opportunity. Okay, yeah, I sort of could agree with that. I think you're going to see some big money gainers across a lot of these different top altcoins. You want to be real. But it says here, it says, quote, the world is literally on the brink of max chaos, unquote. Bitwise Asset Management's head of Alpha Strategies, Jeff Park, said in the February 16th X post. So they're talking about a lot of the geopolitical things that are going on in the world right now. But here's the thing, and this is why I said, we've lived through a lot of things already. So what we've seen over the last few decades is a lot of these countries, they want to appear strong to each other. One, they want to appear strong to their people. Two, so there's a lot of bluffing that goes on. And yes, actions can be taken, but they never cover the fact that there's counteractions. Those counteractions always cancel each other out. So after a time of, typically, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen now, but typically after some bluffing, right? Some banging of the chest like they're apes. After, pretty much canceling each other's actions out, you do this to me, I do this to you. So therefore, really, you're reaching a stalemate of sorts. After a time of that, typically what happens is negotiations. Negotiate. Okay, listen, we can't continue on like this. They all want to live. They all want to make money. I'm telling you, they want to do business. This is why you have all the countries buying up each other's companies, buying up each other's land. That's not going to stop. You think they want that to stop? No. So what typically happens, negotiation will start after a while. They'll say, listen, you do this for us, we'll do this for you. You take away this, we'll take away this for you. And everything starts to reach a level of homeostasis, for lack of a better word, a balance of sorts. That's typically what happens. It's typically what happens. I mean, like I said, I could be wrong this time around, but I don't think I am. The world, no matter what's going on, the world finds a way to survive. It finds a way to balance itself. So it says here, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell threw cold water on the possibility of more interest rate cuts coming to come this year. We'll see about that. We'll see what happens. Jerome Powell is one thing I've learned. I don't trust anything he says. I don't believe anything he says. He's flip-flopped so many times. I've covered him for like almost 4 years now. And he'll say something this one minute, roll out of the bed tomorrow and say something different tomorrow. How many times did he say, we're not going to do interest rate cuts? Then he does. He said, yeah, we're going to do interest rate cuts. He comes out, he sounds hawkish. Then he comes out and he sounds different than hawkish the next time. How many times does that happen? Plenty of times. Plenty of times. So although we do take note of what he's saying, I don't necessarily stand firm with that. Like that's 100% how it's going to be. I don't know. He could change his mind tomorrow. So Jerome Powell says, or he's telling the Senate Banking Committee on February 11th, this is what he said, that the U.S. economy is, quote, remaining strong, unquote, and the U.S. does not, quote, need to be in a hurry to adjust, unquote, rates. Like I said, we shall see how that all works out, okay? So he says this, quote, Bitwise CEO says this, quote, people are wildly underestimating the massive leaps Bitcoin is going to take into the mainstream this year, unquote. There you have it. I told you, he wants people to buy Bitcoin. All these big money people want people to buy Bitcoin. They don't want you to choose to buy Bitcoin. They try to like force you into Bitcoin. They try to tell you something extravagant. Sometimes it's extravagantly good and sometimes it's extravagantly bad. But they use that to sort of manipulate. They know people are very emotional. And they know some people need capital as well, So they use that to their advantage. So that's what it looks like here. He wants people to buy Bitcoin. So it's a little bit extra capital. Every little bit counts to these type of individuals. They don't care how they get it, which is not a good thing, in my humble opinion, right? You should care about, you don't want to be a bleeding heart, in my humble opinion, but you want to have respect for people and hope that they respect you in return. Some people, because when people do stuff like that and they're like, well, the world might burn, so you better protect your value in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price at times dramatically can go up, but also can dramatically go down. What if you have somebody that really needs that capital, right? They need it for their child. They need it for something is going on with their health. They need to make a payment, but now you've made them afraid. So they went into Bitcoin. They lose all their money. Then what? That person's life is destroyed. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I look at things like that and I know some people just don't feel like that. A lot of people are like numb these days. Anyway, just be careful, folks. Be careful out there. Make your own decisions. Make your own decisions. All right. So Bitcoin, but I do agree with that. People are wildly underestimating the massive leaps Bitcoin is going to make. Yeah, I do. I think so. Like I said, they have all the big catalysts there. Nations buying it. A lot of businesses. 72% of businesses not even into crypto just yet. 72%. I think that's what they said. It was over 70%. That's a lot of capital that could come into Bitcoin or XRP or Solana, any of these top utility coin cryptos or any of these top cryptos. So yeah, sure. I agree with that part. So, you let me know what you think about that. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.